On this episode of ResiWeek, Delta shrinks Expo, Parsol everywhere, and work from home struggles. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 292, Holistic Systems.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Middle Atlantic, what great systems are built on, and by Daylight, the leading producer of high-quality projection screens worldwide.
Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Jamie Breezemeister. She is the CEO and boss lady at Integration Controls. How you doing, Jamie?
Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Then we have my good friend coming to us from a vehicle because we screwed up his invitation. Haggai Feiner, he is a strategic advisor to Snap One at Snap One. How you doing, Haggai?
I am well, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thank you both so much for joining us. We are going to kick this off. This is the first show after CEDIA Expo, so we're going to kick it off with a story that comes to us from Residential Tech Today. The Delta variant is or shrunk CEDIA Expo and is pausing HTSA, pushing Axpana, however they're wanting you to pronounce that, and altering AVNation. If you haven't been paying attention, Expo was a little bit smaller than normal this year on the show floor, mostly due to Delta and some exhibitors pulling out and pausing and making changes and plans and all that fun stuff. The high-end audio show that was supposed to happen in October has been pushed to April of 2022. AVNation is modifying their Expo this year. HTSA has suspended all live in-person group events for the remainder of the year. And the one that is not talked about here, but is on a lot of people's mind, is what's going to happen with Infocom in late October down in Florida. So, Jamie, I want to start with you specifically because you were at the show. You went to Expo. I lived vicariously through your posts and Amanda's posts and Bronner's posts and everybody else's posts who was there because I was stuck on this side of the border. Obviously, the show was different, but was it actually different, or was it just smaller from previous years?
It was different.
Okay.
It was different, probably because it was smaller on some level, but it was also, we were spread out, and a lot of us were wearing masks, and getting close to here, people felt strange. You wanted to hug some of your old friends. Some of us did. But it was different, I think, because it was smaller. And also, we knew what had happened. We knew that the show had started one way and ended another. For those to have gone to Expo with the same expectations, that would be a wrong thing to do, because definitely not the same show. Education wise, there were classes that were meant to be taught and last minute didn't, because the teacher instructor didn't feel comfortable coming. Mm-hmm. And so I think the difference was kind of being there during the fallout of the show and being around for those people that were there. We really wanted to connect. So we were there because we wanted to network. We wanted to see our CEDIA family. We wanted to see what product was being shown at the show. As a board member, I wanted to be there and show the staff and the industry, we support you. We're here for you. If you have questions, let's talk about it. So there were lots of reasons why I went. And the biggest one, I didn't have to fly. I'm 4 hours from Indianapolis. So for me, it was really easy. For a lot that had to travel, you, Matt, internationally, you would have been stuck in quarantine for 2 weeks. So it made no sense for you to go. Haggai, my guess is you would have had to fly. That would have added another layer of complexity on whether you decided to go or not. I'm really glad I went, but again, I had the luxury of being able to drive a short 4-hour trip. So for those that went, though, I think that the biggest difference is, with a smaller show and the desire for people to pull together and want to really network, we had complete conversations. And as you know, sometimes during Expo, it's a bit frenetic and chaotic, and you can get caught up in 100 partial conversations. But instead, quality, full and complete conversations were had, and really a connecting of sorts with new and old CEDIA family. We kind of mentioned Steve Bronner earlier. Like, I had really only met him through the forums. And when we had a chance to sit down and connect, I think we both thought that we would have different opinions to debate passionately. But instead, I think we found that we're way more alike than what we thought we were. And that kind of aha moment / realization for the whole community, I think, was really needed at this time.
Yeah.
As far as, what should have been done, I mean, we're seeing the fallout of all of these other shows getting moved, getting changed. If we could rewrite it, could we have just paused this year and started again next year? Absolutely. But for those that did go, I feel that even the vendors had a lot of really quality interactions with the dealers that came through their booths. So, the vendors that decided to not go, they made the decision that was right for them.
Mm-hmm.
And same for all of these other events that keep getting pushed out. Like, who's to know?
Haggai, do you look at this and kind of reading the tea leaves? There were a lot of people who had a great experience at Expo. There were a lot of people who obviously didn't go. Do you look at the remainder of 2021 and just kind of go, yeah, it's probably just a write-off?
I think a lot of people do. And you just got the vantage point of someone who went to the show. Let me give you the vantage point. Was prepared to go to the show, then didn't go. And I can tell you that, maybe it's too an extreme of a term, but I'm really heartbroken over not being able to go. And the reason I didn't go was following our leader, John at Snap, and, following Snap One's decision not to go. So I will not break rank. And I think everybody else kind of felt the same way. And at the same time, I completely understand why Snap One decided not to attend, as did other manufacturers. And I commend our leaders for essentially taking this very complex issue and making a very difficult decision. And at the same time, all the emotions that come along with wanting to be there, wanting to see everyone, looking forward to a really big and amazing comeback, and then having it not happen. I think there are a lot of people that wanted to go and felt like, I definitely felt like I was missing out, especially seeing tweets, knowing even though it's smaller, it's our industry's get together. There are a lot of people that I saw kind of celebrate the end of the CEDIA show era. I think that's misguided, because everybody that I spoke to is looking forward to reconnecting with everyone that they know and work with. And CEDIA is our show. That's not going to change. And so, sure, there'll be local events. They're not going to be as big, as complex, as immersive as CEDIA is. So I think we're going to come back. The question is when.
I'll kind of wrap this before we go on. I obviously really wanted to go, couldn't go because of restrictions that were well beyond my control. And it was I kind of paid attention and kind of didn't want to pay attention because it was depressing to me. Not because of how the show went on, but because I knew as much as it wasn't a show that I decided not to go to because I had other stuff going on. It was a show I legally couldn't get into the United States of America for. I say that legally, right? Yeah. You caught that. Exactly.
When I read the email from Snap One making that decision, I emailed John and a few other executives thanking them for making the decision for us, because this has become a conversation that was like a nighttime conversation between my wife
Yep.
and myself about going, not going. I felt like I made a commitment and I had a great desire to go. And my wife said, so at what cost? What if you get something, infect someone else, you don't die, they die? All these conversations are conversations that are being had now in
Yep.
different households across the industry, across the whole world. So I think in a way that showing leadership and taking the initiative and saying, hey, you know what, we're not going to do this because we feel it's not responsible. It's a really big thing to do, and working everything else on the back end.
Yeah, and to all the people who were rejoicing in the low numbers, etc., most of them aren't the people who go anyways. They're the guys who show up for half a day, walk around, make a lot of noise, and leave. And yeah, I'm calling you out. Yeah, I said it. Send me a tweet. Let's go. It's fine. All right, let's move on before I really go down that rabbit hole. This comes to us from Residential Systems. Parsol launches Parsol Anywhere, an Uber-style platform. Essentially what this is going to do is if you have service techs that are maybe not busy right now, they can, or you can, go through the process of becoming authorized. When you get authorized, your service techs can, quote unquote, clock in to Parsol and help answer support questions and do remote support for Parasol's clients. They will get compensated, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have information on what that compensation model looks like, but as a platform, this looks really interesting. Haggai, let me start with you on this. This seems to kind of be the next big step, in my mind, for how remote support grows, because we all have technicians in-house that can do remote support, but there's times when either we're inundated with support calls and we can't keep up with that in a orderly or quick manner, and there's obviously times when you got techs sitting not doing a whole lot. Is this the best opportunity to utilize those techs and utilize a service like this and know that you've got knowledgeable people answering things?
Absolutely. And mind you, gig economy is taking us there.
Mm-hmm.
This is yet another of integrators helping integrators, and that's happening all over LA, where an integrator is trying to finish a job. They're split between a few different projects. They make a phone call. They have friends. This is simply taking the platform that's been created by Parsol and expanding it into a much larger community. And I feel like, in a way, I always thought of Cedia as the connector. This is taking those initiatives that I feel like Cedia could have gone after, whenever, a while back, and making something real, right? Where integrators can actually get some resources to go finish the job. So I think it's a brilliant idea. And I think it's going to work because historically, even in New York City, specific conversations I've had with integrators in the past is that they help each other. They have a very friendly, competitive relationship where if there is work to be had, someone has a resource, the other integrator has a need, they're going to cooperate and make it happen. So why not turn it into a platform?
Yeah, I love it. Jamie, from the dealer mindset, and keep in mind, this is not necessarily, to Haggai's point, it's not like Jamie's main competitor is necessarily going to be having their service techs help her if they don't already have that relationship through Parsol. This could be my techs helping Jamie's people, or Jamie's people helping my projects. It could be a global situation at this point. Is there any concern that you have, Jamie, of either putting your techs into this program or having your customers potentially end up getting support from technically a competitor?
Not from the competitor side. I guess the only concern I would have would be quality control, because you're really giving that to someone else at that point. And then the focus for my tech. Are they going to be focused on answering, our calls or someone else's phone calls? So, my assumption would be that this is more maybe off hours hours, or maybe it's, only available for a technician that that is underutilized in your company. I don't know many of us that have an underutilized technician at this point. I know within my own and probably yours, we're pushing, our techs are being pushed to do a whole lot in the time frame that they have. So I'm not too worried about the competitive side really at all. I think it's, like you said before, Matt, like chances are if you needed help and you knew that we could help you, you could have made the call. And now instead we just have an easier platform to make that happen, and vice versa. So as far as the competition side, that doesn't really bother me, especially if it's going to be in markets that are outside of our own.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's move on to one of my continual favorite topics. This comes to us from CE Pro. Research is finding that employees are still struggling with remote work and collaboration tech. After nearly 2 years of working from home, many employees are still having a tough go at it, to the point of 83% have seen disciplinary action due to poor performance during a call. Now, I'm going to preface this with, they don't dig into what poor performance means. I.e., you could be sleeping on the video call, and that might be poor performance. It may not be that the quote-unquote tech performance of your conference call or your collaboration tech isn't there. So let's keep that in mind. You're just as likely to get reprimanded for sleeping in the conference room as you will be for sleeping on your conference call. Jamie, when you see this, I'm to the point where we've talked about this for so long. If you still can't kind of figure this out, at what point is this not the teacher talking to the student saying, the calculator got it wrong? Are you sure about that? Like, are we to the point where a lot of this is really just got to be user error?
I think user error on some level. It's part of this, as I read the article, is challenges with the technology itself. So for the masses, sure. For our clients, I can understand that. And the load that it's taken on our infrastructure. I imagine the daily broadband usage, when the pandemic first hit, Monday through Friday, homes were not equipped with this, right? And then all of a sudden homes now have to pump out what schools had been doing before. So the infrastructure, I'm sure, was taxed. Outside of user error, I think part of it is people can get comfortable working at home. So the performance is pushing past that comfort and actually working at home and not working while being at home.
Are you saying I should put pants on?
No, well, you can still go without pants, just so long as you get your work done, Matt.
I'm wearing pants, just so everyone's clear. I'm wearing 505s. It's fine. Haggai, I'm really happy that you're here for this, because I think personally that a lot of this comes down to the culture. If you are working for a corporation and you're working from home, but they haven't either invested in you, invested in the technology for you, or just shown some leadership and created a culture where that you're going to be working at home, 2 days a week for the foreseeable future, versus, every other week getting an email from HR saying you might come back to the office next week. How much of this is due to poor culture?
Well, I think culture in general is probably a component in the equation. It's not everything, okay, but it's also, I know a lot of businesses, including neighboring to us is Princess Cruises in Santa Clarita. They scrambled to get a whole bunch of routers for a whole bunch of people because no one on their team was allowed to work remotely when all this happened in March of 2020. We saw the UPS truck. We're like, is this for us? No, it's for Princess. Well, guess what? Everybody at Access Networks, minus two people that had just joined the team back then, had already been through the process of getting a network for their house, having remote access with a desktop. So this was something that the team was used to as far as working from home, because we were very liberal. Said, hey, you have a child at home, you need to go do something, you need to work from home X amount of days, or it's really, we don't have a choice, right? Because life happens and we can't be at the office all the time. And so we've been implementing this this process for a while, even before the pandemic. So we were effectively kind of ready, right? No one's really ready for everything that happened, but from a remote work perspective, that was already part of our culture because it was acceptable if you work remotely. So it really wasn't that big of a deal. And at the same time, we tried to create an environment where people felt like they're listened to, where, well, because we listened to them, not because we just wanted them to feel that way and we weren't listening. But we had dialogues of, what does this mean? And what do we have to do as a business to continue and grow? And then ultimately in 2020, Access Networks grew by right around 50%, which is crazy to think that not only did we grow, but we grew doing it all remotely. So it's not impossible. The question is, I think a lot of it is discipline and having a committed team that feels like they're accountable to each other. It's not just about what I do, but what I do as a subset of the company as a whole, right? And so I think as long as leadership is driving that commitment to making sure that you have everything you need in life as it is today, you're going to have a team that responds in kind and says, I will do whatever it takes for my team to continue and function. And when we used to hire at Access Networks, I said, look, there's a job description that you're going to get with all of the requirements that we have of you. But I'll tell you, if you really want to be successful, take that as a kind of a top line list. But really what it's going to take is whatever it takes. Meaning, and I've also lived that life where if I need to clean and organize the warehouse, that's what I'm going to do. Until now, I walk in, and if the people that are in logistics need something, whatever, you want me to go get lunch? There's no job is beneath me. And therefore, no job has ever been beneath the team. And therefore, we've been successful. So I think culture is a very strong part of this, because that's the foundation to everything else you're going to do. And then, of course, it's the tools. Do your people have the tools to do their work remotely? And then ultimately is will. Do they have the will to show up every day and continue and show up as if they showed up to the office?
Is there a point where, when this all started, we had a lot of companies that were pushing from the AV side, that were pushing, hey, we can do packages, we can provide your entire team. There was a lot of marketing and some fairly effective pushes to help. That waned in the spring when it looked like you had I want to say JP Morgan in New York saying that, hey, if you want to make New York money, you better be in the office. That is stuck for a while. I don't know if they've walked that back a little bit with Delta, but notwithstanding that marketing, there was a point where I was seeing it everywhere in all my social feeds from all of the other integrators I follow. That hasn't been around in months. Are we to the point where we should be going back after that? Or should we just be assuming that most people are where they're going to be for this?
I think if business is low and you're looking to gain sales, it's certainly a reason that you can go out and attract new business. Or for existing clients, even revisiting them and saying, with new changes upon us and with Delta changing, if there's anything that's changed or needed update in your home, let us know. But as far as to really actively go after it, I think the world is trying to move on, even though Delta variant is still happening. So I don't know if those messages are landing with people, really.
So I feel like this conversation is very similar to the 2-channel audio conversation that no one wants to have.
I'll have a 2-channel conversation. Let's go.
Well, hold on. If you build a house, the integrator that I'm working with wants to know, control, outdoor lighting, music everywhere. So we have speakers in every room and outdoors and subwoofers in the ground. They're rushing to take care of all of that and subwoofers in the wall, and where your panel's going to be, and your lighting design. Lighting is, by the way, the biggest line item we have on our project to date. It's a very big sale that wasn't there in the past. They completely requisitioned that from the electrician. Good for them. No one ever talked to me about 2-channel. Would you like a listening room or a listening area? And here's how we could take all this high def content from the internet and put it on the system and create something that, a sound stage like you've never heard before. And I feel like the same thing happens with remote work, where no one is actually saying, hey, are you going to have a desk anywhere? You're going to have a microphone array. You're going to have, do you need this? Do you need lighting? Do you need, better audio? Do you need your internet pipe to make sure that all this stuff works while all the other stuff works? That's a conversation that is a little harder conversation and no one wants to have. So I think it's up to our industry to who we want to be, right? So is Jamie going to wake up in the morning and sell integration controls? Or is Jamie going to wake up in the morning and sell a holistic system that discusses every single aspect of what this homeowner may want, including all the stuff that's a harder sell, like 2-channel audio, like, remote work packages. So, and again, maybe there isn't enough money in it for her to do. And same with digital security, who wants to go touch that? It's not an easy conversation, nonetheless, a conversation we should be having. So I think it's for us to choose what we want to do. So far with the integrator I'm working with and what I see and hear out there, it's not really taking off. Partially because technology, here on an iPhone. So is that good enough? Is good enough good enough?
Until it's not.
Until you get a disciplinary action on your on your notes because you didn't participate in the video meeting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's wrap it there. Thank you both so much for joining us. Haggai, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Snap One, where can they do that?
Snap1.com, or you can reach me at haggai.feiner, my old email, at accessnetworks.com.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Madam Briesmeister, if people want to connect with you, learn more about integration controls, where can they do that?
Sure. You can find us on the web at integrationcontrols.com. Our social handles are ControlSTL, or you can find me on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Thank you both again for joining us. Thank you for joining us collectively. If you want to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.